Okay. So with that, I do want to ask, how many in this Zoom meeting, out of all those that are here right now, how many of us are English speakers only? Can I see a thumbs up or a raise of hands? Entonces, quiero preguntar que de todos los que están aquí, ¿cuántos hablan inglés? And so I should say English speaking only. Hablan inglés únicamente. English only, okay. Can I see a raise of hands, thumbs up, or I see some folks putting it in the chat? Okay. And how many of us are Spanish speaking only? ¿Cuántos de nosotros hablamos español únicamente? Preferimos el lenguaje en español. Pueden alzar los deditos o ponerlo en el chat. Okay. And so I'm going to assume that everyone else is bilingual. Entonces voy a asumir que todos los demás son bilingües. Okay, so we have 2 English speakers and 1 monolingual Spanish speaker, it looks like. So not a whole lot of difference. Okay. So I think still then we will probably use a portion where we will probably need interpretation, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so I want to ask, just do a quick little check-in question, and you can put it in the Zoom chat. Oh, are we going? Mm-hmm. I was going to ask the check-in question. Our check-in question is if you could please share your name and pronoun if you want, and where you're Zooming from, and then something that brings you joy today. So ahora si pueden poner en el chat, compartir su nombre, pronombre, si quiere compartir su pronombre, y qué es lo que, de dónde está acompañándonos el día de hoy, de qué ciudad, de qué parte, y algo que le trae alegría el día de hoy. Okay, and so I see some folks had already shared, like Fabiola says she is from, pronouns are she, her, and she is Zooming from Fresno. And something that brought her joy today was buying ingredients to make dinner tonight. Awesome, Fabiola. And Janine is joining us from Oakland, and she's, what is it? Oh, our housing team has brought her a lot of joy. Thank you, Janine. And Rebecca is from Merced. And one thing that brought her joy today is her coffee. It was especially delicious today. Griselda Lozano, she is from Dos Palos, and she has enjoyed her food, her dinner today. Gracias, Graciela. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and please keep adding in the chat. Let us know where you're from and what you enjoyed from today. And then we're gonna continue on with the next slide. So just want to explain a little bit about Faith in the Valley. So Faith in the Valley is our organization, Faith in the Valley, is in 5 different counties. But we are also a part of a large statewide network made up of a bunch of other organizations, and you can see them on this image. We're all, as far high as up in North California, and then as far down as San Diego. We make up the whole, but Faith Valley makes up the whole Central Valley region, which are the 5 counties that you see here, which is San Joaquin County, Stanislaus, Merced, Fresno, and Kern. Entonces, para compartir un poquito de lo que es Fe en el Valle, nosotros somos una organización en 5 condados que nos enfocamos desde San Joaquín, Stanislaus, Merced, Fresno y Kern, pero formamos una parte de una red estatal compuesta de estas organizaciones que ven aquí, desde el norte de California hasta abajo en el sur de San Diego, y todos formamos parte de Pico, California. So this statewide network is what we call Pico, California. All right, so I want to take maybe just a quick minute to like read through this. I feel like this is a really good faith reflection on our campaign on why home is sacred. I'm gonna go through this whole slide in English, and then I'll be back and go through it in Spanish. Actually, can I get a volunteer to read this?
I can read some, Blanca.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So home is sacred, a faith reflection. Home is sacred. Home is holy. Home is where the heart is. Home is where our children sleep, play, and do their homework. Home is the first place where we learn how to live in community, how to put the needs of others before ours, and how to share what we have with others. Home is the cornerstone, the first building block of healthy, thriving communities. Now, Blanca, en español, por favor.
Yeah. Gracias, Elise. Thank you so much, Elise. Entonces, aquí esta es una reflexión de la vivienda es sagrada, es nuestra reflexión de fe. Sí puedo llamar a un voluntario, un valiente voluntario que quiera leernos esta reflexión en español. Carmen.
Sí, buenas tardes. El hogar es sagrado. El hogar es santo. El hogar está donde está el corazón. El hogar es donde nuestros hijos duermen, juegan, hacen sus tareas. El hogar es el primer lugar donde aprendemos cómo vivir en comunidad, cómo poner las necesidades de otros antes de las de nosotros y cómo compartir lo que tenemos con otros. El hogar es la piedra angular, la primera pieza fundamental de las comunidades saludables y prósperas. Gracias.
Gracias. So I just want to ask, after having read this and sat with this and reflected on this, what words, phrases, or memories come to mind when you think about home? If you can please put those in the chat. Entonces, ahorita ya que leímos esto, les quiero preguntar, ¿verdad? Y que tuvimos un momento para reflexionar en lo que dice aquí. ¿Qué palabras, frases o memorias te vienen a la mente cuando piensas en tu hogar? O lo que significa tener un hogar. Yo diría que para mí es familia, sonrisas, niños jugando. So I would say that for me, some things that come to mind, it's family, children playing, laughter, barbecuing, haciendo barbecue.
I like to share. I wrote in the chat because that's what you said, the first thing, and I wrote my mother. And for me, thinking about home is reflecting and remembering my mother, who I lost many years ago. But the sounds of home with my mother the laughter, her smiling, or getting scolded for doing something I wasn't supposed to do because I was kind of like a little devious child. I always liked to be doing something I had no business doing, but that my sisters, I have sisters, I had a brother, my father, so when you think about home, I think about family, like Blanca said, mi familia, the people that I share that space and learn how to act right with a group of people. So that's kind of what I thought about.
Thank you, Elise. Do you have time for one more person to share? Una persona más que guste compartir.
I can go. As I'm reading some of the comments about like cooking breakfast and listening to Vicente Fernandez on the radio on Sunday mornings, I think about like Saturday mornings where I was trying to sleep in and my mom would like come in and make all this like ruckus because it's time to clean and put her music on. So that's what I remember, right? And me trying to like stay in bed and the more I would try to pretend to sleep, the more noise she would make. That's what I remember the most.
Comparte Monse que ella lo que se le viene a la mente son las mañanas como fines de semana cuando era joven, que se quería dormir tarde, pero su mamá prendía la radio y se ponía a hacer limpieza con el volumen de la radio fuerte, dice, y mientras más trataba de dormir, más fuerte le subía y más ruido hacía. Entonces, son esos sonidos que se le vienen a la mente, ¿verdad? De su hogar. Thank you for sharing, everyone. Gracias por compartir. Can we go on to the next slide? Okay. Mons, are you taking on this piece?
Janine will. And so, los que hablan español, por favor, en esta sección, ahorita voy a aprender la interpretación. Entonces, abajo hagan clic en el globo y seleccionen español. Solamente para los que hablan español. Y ahorita lo prendo.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Janine Nkosi. I am a professor of sociology at Fresno State. I want to give a shout out all the Fresno State students that are in the house. Could you please drop a plus, put a heart, a little bulldog or something? Use your emoji and let folks know all the Fresno State folks represent, love and appreciate you all. I am the Director of Housing Justice Initiatives at Faith in the Valley. And so love my Faith in the Valley family. And I'm going to be holding this piece. This slide right here is a little bit of a picture of some things that we thought were important to share about our home, the San Joaquin Valley. The San Joaquin Valley is a collection of 8 counties. You can see on the map there, we are the center of this beautiful state of California. So Kern County, all the way on the southern part, we have Kings, Tulare, we have Fresno, we have Madera, we have Merced, Stanislaus County, and San Joaquin County. This spans 336 miles across the central part of California, and together we make up a population of 4.35 million people. And I think our housing team, we think this is important because oftentimes the Central Valley is overlooked when we think about housing policy and economic policy. We think, Southern California has a large population and it also spans a large area. And we think about the Bay Area and the large population and area that the Bay Area spans. And we in the Central Valley, we are a large, beautiful collection of people also. And so we are, as it says there, the most productive agricultural region in the entire world. In the San Joaquin Valley, we produce $24 billion. And actually, there's a typo there on our slide. That $24 billion is in agricultural production. So we produce every year farm workers and people who work in the food and beverage industry, work in packing houses. We are a huge economic engine of the state of California. I don't know if folks know that we also generate for the state of California. We have 83% of the active oil wells in California are located in the San Joaquin Valley. We produce 75% of the crude oil that comes out, right? The resources that come out that help to put lights on in people's homes, that help to provide gas in our cars, that help to literally fuel all these different parts of our lives and our society. In the San Joaquin Valley, we generate 75% of the total oil production for the state of California. 78% of the natural gas for the state of California, we produce that. That comes out of the San Joaquin Valley. We produce, farm workers help to cultivate more than 250 crops in the part of the map there that you see, the San Joaquin Valley. We are generating $9 billion, right? The dairy and beef industry, an annual revenue. A little over $6 billion. I think it's like $6.2 billion in oil and gas production. So when we think about the San Joaquin Valley, we want folks to think about the incredible gifts, the wealth, the economic engine, the power that comes from the San Joaquin Valley. But also, we have to recognize that, yes, we are a very wealthy region, but we also have some of the highest rates of concentrated poverty. We have some of the worst air quality of anywhere in the nation. We have the highest rent rises, highest rates of eviction. And that's because these industries, right, that we're talking about here, the two that I've named so far, these are extractive industries. We are extracting the natural, right, resources and minerals and oil from the San Joaquin Valley, and few people are profiting off of the wealth from the San Joaquin Valley. There are 4 major extractive industries that dominate the economy and the politics of the San Joaquin Valley. I've already named 2, big ag and big oil. And we also have a big real estate industry and prisons that make up prisons, jails, juvenile detention centers, and ICE detention centers also dominate the politics and economy of the Central Valley. And the next slide, I talk about some of the consequences of those extractive industries. We're going to just put a spotlight on the housing crisis. When we think about why are families being pushed out of their homes and their communities, why are people struggling to be able to pay rent or to try to buy a home? Those industries and that wealth needs to be a part of the story, because there is tremendous wealth in the San Joaquin Valley, and we are a part of producing that, but it is not being shared. It's a problem of how it's being distributed and who is profiting off of the resources and the wealth and the hard work of the San Joaquin Valley. So Monse, I don't know if you want me to keep going here or I'm going to pass it to you. You let me know.
You could go.
Okay.
for this next one. Yeah.
So Faith in the Valley, as a part of our organizing, if you could go back to the previous slide, Alex, we are doing community-based research all the time with students, with renters, with clergy leaders, with ally organizations. We work together to do really important research to investigate what's going on, how are people being impacted, and this is just a little glimpse into some of the key findings from some of our research as it relates to housing. So we have 12,000 people, more than 12,000, excuse me, households, 12,000 households every year that are being going through a formal eviction process. And so that means that families are being served with notices for a number of reasons and are being forced into the courthouse, having to almost always represent themselves with very little legal support and almost never having an attorney with them to help them navigate that court system. Now that number, 12,000, it represents only the formal evictions, the ones that make their way into the courthouse. But our research and research that's been done in other parts of California and other parts of this country show that there are twice as many or more evictions that happen outside of the courts. People that are served with notices, but don't feel that they can, it's a very fast moving court process. So first of all, you only get 5 days to answer. It's complicated. It's difficult to figure out how to navigate the court system. And even for folks that can do that, they don't believe that they're going to get fairness in the court system. So they don't try to fight it. They pack up and they move. Sometimes these are illegal evictions that folks are being served with. And so it's important for all of us to know that that number, although it is astounding in and of itself, it only represents a piece of the story when it comes to evictions. I don't want to, I'm going to just very quickly, we've been able to identify through different reports that there are more than 7,000 known or documented, counted people who are unhoused. That this doesn't include people who are trapped in motels, folks who are living in their cars, people who are couch surfing, people who are having to live with their families, right? 1 or 2 or more families living together in an overcrowded situation. That represents only a piece of what we know about people who are unhoused. The last one I'm gonna lift up, and I want to invite folks, right? These are just a few numbers, but right now, as I name these, what are the things that you are experiencing? When we think about the housing crisis in the Central Valley, what do you know? Use the Zoom chat, put into the Zoom chat, what do you know? What are you experiencing? The people that you care about. I teach and work with young adult renters. And so my students tell me that, you know, they can't move out of their parents' home. They want to move out, but they can't find anywhere affordable to be able to move to. And that's that number one right there, right? The San Joaquin Valley has areas, Fresno is one, not the only one, where we have the fastest growing rents of anywhere in the nation, y'all. In Fresno alone, since 2017, rents have gone up 39%. It's $1,400 now to be able to afford a 2-bedroom in the city of Fresno. And research shows that you have to earn more than $20 an hour to be able to afford rent for an apartment, but minimum wage is $15.50, right? It's still hanging around the $15 an hour. And so this is just a little glimpse. We didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on the crisis because I think that the problem of housing, the crisis that we're in, is the thing that we are the most experiencing, most knowledgeable about. And so we wanted to spend as much time as we could tonight lifting up some of the powerful work that people are doing to organize, to come together and to address the problem, and some really important policies that we can work together to pass that could help address this crisis. So I'm going to pause there, and Blanca or Monse, if you want to add anything else to this before we move on. I saw some folks put some things in the chat if you want to lift up some of those.
Si ustedes pudieron compartir algo en el chat de sus experiencias.
Yeah, this is the main room for everyone now, Blanca, but I'm hearing and I'm seeing students who move away from home for higher education often have to choose between staying in school or couch surfing. Lots of added stress on top of, like, you know, stress from school. I'm seeing, I have friends who don't believe they'll ever be able to buy a home. Another comment has been, I would meet with families dealing with domestic violence, and they were evicted, adding to that burden. That's a lot to deal with. A lot of craziness is another comment, and then illegal evictions, families being torn apart.
¿Algunas historias que gusten compartir ustedes sobre sus experiencias?
Yo quisiera compartir algo que también, a un principio cuando llegamos a California, mi familia, mis 3 hijos, mi esposo y yo, llegamos y nos ajustaba con el sueldo de mi esposo para pagar renta y todos los gastos de la familia. Pero hubo un lapso en que nos mudamos a una casa donde no nos ajustaba con ganaba por quincena, y teníamos que guardar dinero de una quincena para poder ajustar la renta en el mes. Y sí se nos hizo difícil. Vivimos aproximadamente 2 años ahí en esa vivienda.
I'm sorry, Monse, I wasn't able to capture the whole thing. Could you interpret that piece? Were you able to?
Yes, if I'm trying to remember correctly too. When her husband and her moved to California, limited wages, so they struggled to make ends meet with like paying the rent and, you know, providing food for the family. Like, it was just a struggle to figure out. Obviously, like, providing a shelter for their family, but also like providing the essentials such as food. It was just difficult. I'm seeing another student comment as well. Landlords also charge crazy amounts in rent for students because they know students get money from school, charging around $500 per room and around $1,000 for a master bedroom. It seems like that's a lot. We could thank you everyone for sharing. Gracias a todos por compartir sus experiencias. Sabemos que no es, desafortunadamente es nuestra realidad y no debe de ser así. I was just sharing in Spanish that unfortunately this is our reality, but we know that we could change that, right? We could, through organizing, we could change the system, we could change our environment and really make sure that everyone has a safe and secure home that they live in, where they don't have to go through like, do I pay rent or do I pay school? Do I eat or do I like save up more money? So let's move along to the next slide so we could talk about our Home is Sacred campaign and our vision and a platform. Vamos a transicionar para la vivienda sagrada, nuestra visión y plataforma. Entonces vamos a poner el video. We're going to play the video. Este video fue tomado el 4 de mayo. Tuvimos una reunión con todos nuestros colegas de Pico. On May 4th, we had a gathering with all our Pico, California colleagues. And just to let everyone know, shout out to the people that helped us figure out what Pico meant. I should have known, but it just like really skipped my mind. So it's people improving communities through organizing. Thank you, everyone. Entonces, Pico significa gente, people improving communities through organizing, personas mejorando sus comunidades por organizando. If we could play on the video.
Repeat after me. I see you.
I see you.
I hear you.
I hear you.
You belong.
You belong.
You matter.
You matter.
You are worthy.
You are worthy.
Yo te veo.
Yo te veo.
Yo te escucho.
Yo te escucho.
Tú perteneces.
Tú perteneces.
Tú eres importante.
Tú eres importante.
Yo te veo.
Yo te veo.
Yo te escucho.
Yo te escucho.
Tú perteneces.
Tú perteneces.
Tú eres importante.
Tú eres importante.
Tú eres digna y digno.
Tú eres digna y digno.
Otra vez.
Yes, there was a correction. It was not May 4th, it was March 4th. Fue el 4 de marzo, no el 4 de mayo. Ya me adelanté. And then if we keep going to the next slide. And in this slide, I'll read this Homes Guarantee Vision. And then Blanca, if you could read it in Spanish after me. Not me putting you on the spot. So this is our vision, right? Every person, regardless of background, income, identity, or conformity to social or legal norms, has safe, accessible, sustainable, and deeply and permanently affordable housing in equitable, climate resilient communities.
Okay, this is quite a mouthful, so I'm going to try my best. Entonces, esta es la visión que tenemos de hogares garantizados. Es una campaña que también lideramos y nuestra visión es que cada persona, sin importar su de dónde viene o de su ingreso, identidad o conformidad a la sociedad o normas legales, tiene el derecho a un lugar que sea sostenible, accesible, a salvo y que sea permanentemente asequible en una comunidad resiliente al cambio climático.
Thank you. And so this is the vision of Homes Guarantee that we have deeply leaned into and really believe in. Esta es la visión de viviendas garantizadas que hemos hecho bastante, hemos reflexionado y realmente creemos en él y que es posible en el Valle Central. This photo, there's two photos here. One is like the Fresno we want to live in. And so this has been done by, I believe, students that we've been in relationship with. And so it's artwork. It's artwork that's been created and like the visions of Homes Guarantee. So you'll see some phrases like rent control, public parks, free healthcare, community gardens. And then on the other side, there's an artwork by Diana Morales. Again, kind of living into the Homes Guarantee vision that we have. And so in the chat or on audio, if you want to share what you like about these images or these graphics, what's missing perhaps, would you like to add anything? Entonces estas fotos o esos gráficos tienen como cosas que son parte de las viviendas garantizadas como jardines comunitarios, seguro médico gratuito, control de renta, parques públicos. Entonces, si gusta, por favor en el chat agregue como qué le gusta de esos gráficos, tal vez está faltando algo, si a usted le gustaría agregar algo más a esas imágenes. Keep them coming, y'all. I'm seeing intergenerational communities. Oh, if you want to share, Elise, go for it.
Well, I just want to say thank you for both pictures, because one of the things that the Homes Guarantee being in this work has done is to make things more concrete. And I like the way both pictures are set out, you know, and the thing that I thought about also was a community type center, not necessarily a church per se, you know, because there's multiple ways to think, but a center where people could come together and share, you know, peace, culture, and education type activities as a community. So something like that, you know, that kind of gathering place, that would be, you know, something that I would add.
Thank you. La compañera Elise agregó que le gustó el centro comunitario en donde personas de diferentes identidades, religiones puedan reunirse para platicar, charlar y estar en comunidad. I'm also seeing free healthcare, seguro médico gratuito, deeply rooted in community and cooperative models. No GMOs or pesticides near any home, stop killing our people. Entonces agregaron que no pesticidas alrededor de ninguna viviendas. El jardín comunitario, community garden. So once again, thank you for sharing. Schools, escuelas, we'll keep it going. Just stay active in the chat. Hopefully I could read your comments as we keep on going. So the Home is Sacred campaign isn't like something that we just kind of thought of. It happened through like years of like housing actions, not only from like Faith in the Valley, but also from our sister federations. And then Pico, California decided to embark this campaign. Entonces la campaña de viviendas son sagradas no empezó solamente como de un día para el otro. Han habido diferentes acciones que hemos tenido con Fe en el Valle o con nuestras otras organizaciones. Entonces voy a compartir las fotos. I'm going to share and talk about these photos. Like in the middle, I believe these are some students that wanted to talk about like cancel the rents. And they organized during the pandemic. Entonces en el medio hay una foto de unos estudiantes que quisieron cancelar las rentas durante la pandemia y decidieron organizar. On the top, there's a photo, top right hand side, there's a photo of the Trails End community fighting for their communities. Arriba está la comunidad de Trails End que peleó para quedarse con su comunidad, pero desafortunadamente la ciudad les falló. In the middle, there's a Housing for All rally. En el medio hay un rally de una protesta de Housing for All, viviendas para todos. The woman with the glasses right here, that's Secretary, I believe, the 18th Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Secretary Marcia Fudge. And we were able to participate in like a roundtable with her. Entonces, aquí también tenemos una foto con la secretaria Marcia Fudge, que es la secretaria de Viviendas y Desarrollo de Áreas Urbanas. Y tuvimos personas de Fe en el Valle también participando en esa conversación, tratando de darle nuestra perspectiva en cómo hacer las viviendas más accesibles. So in the chat, like if you have like if you've participated in any of these actions, like let us know, or maybe you participated in a different one, just let us know. And then yeah, we have folks in the space tonight who traveled to DC to uplift the San Joaquin Valley. So shout out to you guys. En ese espacio tenemos personas que han viajado hasta el Capitolio de Estados Unidos a Washington DC para platicar de las realidades de las personas en el Valle Central.
Okay, so this is Elise. You know, the way we have this, I don't know what y'all can see me or not, so I have my camera on. But I was fortunate to go to Washington, D.C. to represent the Central Valley, but not just those two places. I've been fortunate to go over the last like 2 years, really representing the Central Valley. Now, these particular pictures, when we look like deeply in them, so my face is way up on it. I see my face on the Zoom back there. I see Blanca's face back there. I think I saw Blanca in there somewhere. And, you know, with Miss Marcia Fudge, we went to last year in July, we went to HUD. We went to the franchise, we went to HUD, we went to the CFPB, and I think 2 other agencies, and all the names escape me right now, but I'll just put it like this. I have been encouraged going to doing these events and these activities. But what I do know, working on the federal campaign, is really about how we build our base in the Central Valley. That's going to really make all the difference in the world. You know, right now, you know, there's a lot of action, you know, locally, on a state level, and on a federal level. And what I do know is that we have to really work together. And we have so many smart people. I mean, you know, not like educated, smart, that too, but people who live this experience. And so they are the ones to really communicate what their experience is, raise their voice about how they were treated, what they like and what they don't like. Because, you know, when we sit in these spaces, you know, like Marcia Fudge, you know, she was genuinely, she appeared to be very concerned about what we brought to the table, and she made her staff available to us, you know. But in the bottom line is that that's on a really high level. We need to have changes that's going to affect the lives of our people right here, right now, on the ground level, you know. And but it's this long process. So yes, I have been able to go. I went to DC, as a matter of fact, in March. So this was my second go around to DC. And this time around, we met with the Federal Housing Finance Agency, Deputy Director, not Deputy Director, excuse me, Sandra Thompson. Director Sergeant Thompson. And what I liked about that particular action, I led that team there in DC, is that she was genuinely interested to hear people's story. And the FHFA is going to be opening up a request for information very shortly. And this is the time to mobilize our bases. This is the time to gather stories. Let's be a part of that process. You know, there's being all kinds of these plans being made, but plans only work when people do the work of the plan. That's how a plan works. You know, so I'm so excited, and I'm very honored, and I'm very appreciative to be a voice of the Central Valley, because I love the Central Valley, and that's real straight talk. So I'm Elise. That's it for me.
Thank you, Elise, for sharing. I wanted to, whenever someone's speaking in English, monolingual English, I'll turn on the interpretation again. So if you're, si habla español, cuando alguien está hablando solamente en inglés, haga clic en la interpretación. Lo prenderemos a ese momento para que también puedan escuchar. And thank you so much, Elise, for your leadership. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Let me see. And then, yeah, using the chat, like I mentioned earlier, like, let us know if you've participated in any action. Maybe you want to create an action, like, let us know. Or what action did you stood out to you from these photos? ¿Cuál acción le gusta o pensó que se miraba interesante? And then we can move to the next slide. And so this is a question that I've already asked. Es la pregunta que ya les pregunté. ¿De qué otras acciones? Okay. In this section, we have the actions that we've had in the past, and like kind of like our collective wins. And so there's like a blighted vacant building ordinance that was passed through like countless organizing efforts, rental housing inspection program, rental housing registry, the Fresco mobile app, restructuring of code enforcement, the eviction protection program, affordable housing trust fund. So these are just some of like the news, the news, sorry, I got a little distracted. Yeah, just some of the press releases from the news outlets that, you know, explain our wins and like things that happened within the city. So we've literally helped secure millions of dollars in funding for housing protections, preservation, and production. And we're still not done, right? We still have a lot of collective work to continue to do to ensure, once again, that our Homes Guarantee vision and our Homes is Sacred campaign and visions come to life. And we know it's possible through organizing and working together and putting our thoughts together, putting our efforts together, our superpowers, like we like to say, and working together to ensure that we all have a safe and affordable home to live in. And then, so I'll pass it over to you, Janine. Y recordatorio, si habla español, Blanca está interpretando al momento y para que escuchen en su lenguaje de español, hagan clic en la interpretación para que puedan escuchar. I'll hand it over to you, Janine.
But these are the policies that the Faith in the Valley housing team sees that align with the Homes Guarantee vision, that vision that Monse and Blanca read out, and those beautiful pictures that we looked at when we imagined the Central Valley that we want to see. These policies are essential to helping us to create that Central Valley that we want to see. And so I'm going to focus more time on one in particular, which is the first one, SB 567. This is a policy to create more protections, stronger protections for people. Put a plus in the chat if you are a renter. If you rent an apartment or a home or a mobile home park, or you live in dorms, you're renting a room. If you are a renter, please put a plus in the chat. And I'm going to put a plus. I'm a renter. Or if you have a person that you care about, a family member, a best friend, a classmate at school, a coworker. If you know somebody who's a renter, put a plus in the chat, because this is about creating stronger protections for all of us and the people that we care about who are renters. And when we think about policies, housing policies, some of them align with protections. How do we protect people who are renters right now, so that when they want to stay in their community and they want to stay in their home, that they have a right to do that? Some of the other policies that I'm going to talk about more briefly, and we'll have more workshops to go into, more detail about those, but we do want to mention them tonight. Some of those align with preserving. How do we pass policies that will preserve? And I'm going to go back to the other one, but just very quickly. Some of these relate to, like, there's affordable housing that exists. How do we preserve that housing? Some of these policies relate to the fact that we need to build, we need to produce more housing. And so that's the production side of it. There's a preservation side. There's a production, we need to build, but what we build matters. We want to build more housing that is housing that reflects those images that we saw. Housing that is truly for people and not for profit. And then some of these bills, another bill that's in here relates to participation and relates to power and placement, right? Those are the 5 Ps. When we think about how do we change housing, we need to think about all of those and even other things that we haven't thought about. Protections, production, preservation, placement, right? We want housing to be built in every part of our cities and our counties that's beautiful, safe, high quality housing for everyone. And so tonight we're going to focus on a little bit more on protections, and then the other policies, I'm going to just run through those a little bit quicker. So this one relates to the protections piece. In 2019, after a long process of organizing, people across the state of California, renters, and a lot of allies, people who care right? About housing, people who care about renters. We all joined together and we organized and we were successful. Put a plus in the chat. Put an emoji if you were a part of helping to pass. The bill is called AB 1482. It was the Tenant Protection Act of 2019. And I'm going to put a plus because I was a part of that effort. And if I have some family members here tonight, they can put a plus because, you know, it's a family affair. We're always right and working together with our family members. If there's any Fresno State students in here, the students that were in these classes before you, they were a part of this process. And it was a really important policy. It was very historic. It was really critical to creating some protections, some more protections for renters. This bill right here, SB 567, is what is called the Homeless Prevention Act. See, when we passed that bill in 2019, it was important, it was really critical, but it left some people out. There were some loopholes that we know about now, and there was an opposition. People didn't want that bill to pass. And so through the negotiations process to pass the Tenant Protection Act, we weren't able to ensure that everybody could be protected. And so that's why right now we need to make some revisions. We need to make some updates to that existing bill. And that's what SB 567 is going to help us do. It's going to help seal the cracks, help close some of the loopholes in the existing bill. And so here's some of the things that it's going to do. Right now, under the Tenant Protection Act, it was so important, y'all, because prior to the Tenant Protection Act, rents could go up. And there were in cities and counties across the San Joaquin Valley where we don't have not one local rent control law locally. Landlords could raise rents and there was no limit. We weren't saying, hey, you can't raise the rent at all. We were saying we understand that part of your investment and your business model means that you got to raise the rent, but we got to put a limit on it. And so that's what we did. We put a limit, put a cap on how much the rents could be raised within a year, but it was too high. Right now, rents can be raised 10% every year. The rent can go up by 10%, but the reality is that our incomes aren't going up. Every time there's a rent increase, but our income stays the same, we're actually losing income, right? It's more money that we have to give away from our paychecks, and we're losing income. And the reality is that it's already so hard for those ends to meet. People are already struggling to pay the existing rent. So when it goes up, there's some research that shows if the rent goes up by $100, homelessness increases by 10% because people are really struggling to be able to pay that rent. And so this is going to say, look, you can raise the rent, but we're going to reduce the cap and we're going to cut it in half essentially. So this is going to lower the amount of rent that can be raised annually down to around 5%. Okay, that's one really significant piece of this Homeless Prevention Act. The other thing that it's going to help do is right now, single family homes. So if you are a renter living in a home that is owned by an individual that has a few properties, but not a corporation, you're not covered. And a lot through our research and just the conversations that we have with people all the time, a huge portfolio, a big stock of rental housing in the San Joaquin Valley is owned by people who are not by corporations, right? In Southern California, in the Bay Area, they have large corporations that have huge portfolios. We have some of them, right? We do have corporate landlords in the San Joaquin Valley, but the reality is a lot of those single family rentals are not owned by corporations. And so those folks are not covered at all under the existing bill. And so this is really important because we need people who rent in single family homes to be protected. Another group who's not protected are students who are living in dorms. And that's not on the table right now, but it can be on the table if we organize and get students together and we meet with our legislators, and Montse is going to go over that in just really soon. Maybe we can get students covered, right? I don't know if it'll make it into this one, but it certainly won't if we don't get enough students together and say, hey, we need this too. Folks in mobile home parks, right now, there's discussion about whether or not renters who live in mobile home parks are going to be covered under this revision. And so we in the Central Valley, we have a lot of folks that are renting in mobile home parks, and they need to be covered and they need to be protected. And that is a possibility, but it's only going to be in there if we come together and we organize to ensure that renters who live in mobile home parks are covered under this. The other thing that I want to mention about this important revision is that right now, under the Tenant Protection Act, the one that currently exists, there are no mechanisms in there for enforcement. And we need, a bill is only as valuable as the implementation of it and the enforcement of it. And so it's really important that we organize and we revise and we win SB 567, because in the Central Valley and in other parts of California, landlords are violating the existing laws, and there aren't mechanisms for accountability, for holding those landlords and property managers accountable when they break these laws. And so the Homeless Prevention Act is going to include mechanisms for accountability and enforcement and implementation that didn't exist in the first bill. So, yeah, so we really need this one. Anything else, Montse or Blanca, to mention here? The next ones, y'all, I'm going to go over those fairly quickly because we'll hold space for workshops, particularly related to those bills. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to roll through these next ones. So this one right here, this relates to the production. So when we don't have enough. One of the slides earlier said that there's 103,000 unit shortfall in affordable housing, right? We don't have enough affordable housing. We need to build, but what we build and who we build it for, that matters. And so SB 555 is a bill that's going to help California put us on a pathway to building the kind of housing called social housing that takes housing off of the private market, takes it off of the for-profit market. So this is in those pictures. Remember, I put in there cooperative models, community models, housing that is truly built for people and for communities, that is has no profit. There's no profit as a part of the equation. And so we'll hold a workshop so that we can do a deeper dive on social housing. But one thing that I want to say is that Faith in the Valley was invited to be a part of a delegation and travel to Vienna, Austria. We traveled all the way to the other side of the world to go learn about Vienna's housing system, because they are a city of almost 2 million people, and they have virtually no visible homelessness. For 10 years in a row, Vienna has been ranked the most livable city in the entire world, and their social housing system is a huge part of why they have the most livable city. They have built social housing that is housing that's holistic, and it's for people, and it puts restrictions on housing that is built that has any profit in it, and they build a whole bunch, thousands of units. Every single year, they're building thousands of units of social housing, housing that it will never make its way onto the private for-profit market. And so that's what SB 555 is about, putting California on a real path to creating a social housing system. Next slide, Monse. SB 225, Community Anti-Displacement and Preservation Program. So earlier I said protections, production, preservation. So we have a lot of rental housing right now. We have apartments, we have homes, we have mobile home parks, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that we preserve that housing. Right now, in parts of the San Joaquin Valley, people have been being devastated by the floods, had to be evacuated from their apartments, had to be evacuated from their homes because of the flooding. And now when they've tried to return back to their homes, some of them have been served with eviction notices. Some of them have been locked out. They've been hearing from some of the landlords that the damage on the property is so significant that they're not sure if they're going to repair and make that property available for rent. They might sell that property. Well, if they sell those properties, an apartment building, a mobile home park, or a home that is currently rental housing, this bill right here is going to create a real opportunity, because it's going to dedicate $500 million. So that way, those renters and those cities and communities can have a chance to preserve that housing and buy it, rather than a corporate landlord buying up the property and then raising up those rents and people being permanently displaced. So we really need SB 225, it's called CAP, because this is going to create more opportunities for us to preserve the existing supply of rental property, but not only preserve it, create opportunities for us to put it in the hands of the community. And so we'll have a workshop, and we'll do more kind of learning and training, do a deeper dive on the CAP bill. The last two that I'm going to talk about, this one is essential because right now, put a plus in the chat right now, or any type of emoji that you want, if you believe that housing is a human right, that the mere fact that we are human beings, that we have a right to have a safe, secure, beautiful home because we are human beings. That's what this is going to do. This is going to amend the California Constitution and put a clause in there that says every person who lives in California has a human right to housing. And it's so important because, right, I mean, one, because we're making a public statement, but it goes deeper than that. It's also going to put mechanisms in place to hold our local government and our state government accountable to upholding that right. So we'll do another workshop, and we'll take a deeper dive into the housing as a human right constitutional amendment, but that's what this one is about. And the last one, I think it's the last one that we want to talk about is SB 4, which is affordable housing on faith lands. So as a faith-based organization, and to be very clear, we are an interfaith organization. So that means people of all faith traditions. And that can be a faith tradition in a divine entity. That could be faith in the land, faith in Mother Earth, faith in people, right? We are people who are grounded and rooted in our faith and putting our faith into action, whatever faith means to you and whatever your faith tradition is, putting it into action to create a more just, a more thriving, a more beautiful Central Valley. And this one is going to help create an opportunity for all of the clergy leaders and people who are a part of congregations that have land and care about affordable housing and want to use some of their land to help create affordable housing for the community and with the community. And also for all the college students that are in here, this is also going to create an opportunity for colleges and universities that have land for us to be able to build housing for students. And so we'll do a workshop. We'll take a deep dive into this one, but that's a high level overview of the affordable housing on faith lands. Collectively, these set of policies are going to help us to move closer and to advance that North Star vision of a homes guarantee.
Thank you so much for that legislative breakdown, Janine, on the policies on the policy platform. I'll be going over the legislative breakdown. Janine just shared all the policies that we're supporting as Faith in the Valley and that we really believe in. So I'll be talking about like, how do we get those policies passed, or what's the route we have to take? What journey do we have to embark on as we move forward during this legislative process? So on this slide right here, Path to Power, from March through April. So starting in March, we've been having meetings with core leaders and staff. And by core leaders, I mean like folks that have really been invested in the campaign, and folks that are bringing others in, but anyone could be a leader. You just have to want to participate, right? Like, and we understand that as leaders, yes, we'll be providing a copy of this. As leaders, sometimes you don't have the capacity to join every meeting, and that's okay. We understand that. We welcome you as you are, wherever you feel like you can jump in. We'll take you in to participate in this organizing journey with us. Yes, I will go slower. And so from March through April, we've been having these meetings with leaders and also talking to our legislators. So in April, on the 20th of April, we'll be having a statewide action where we're hoping to have 400 to 500 leaders and staff members at the state capitol rallying about home is sacred, and specifically rallying on the bills that we talked about, but also really highlighting SB 567, because we know it could provide protections to a lot of tenants throughout the Central Valley and throughout the state. In the summer and fall, we're hoping to have another action that would bring a bigger delegation of about 2,000 leaders and staff members to the Capitol, or I'm not so sure where we'll be going there, but I'm assuming it would probably be at the Capitol. So yeah, this is the journey to get to where we would like to be. So again, there's 3 phases to this. So we're currently in the first phase for this legislative fight for SB 567. SB 567 is currently the bill that's sitting at the Senate Judiciary Committee, and it'll probably make it to the Appropriations Committee. It depends, and then it'll get to the Senate floor. In phase 2, this SB 567 will move over to the Assembly Judiciary Committee, and then the Assembly Housing Committee and the Assembly floor. And then the third phase, it would go up to the governor's desk for him to sign it. And I know sometimes like you could get confused. I know I did when folks would tell me like SB this, AB this, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, so when we talk about bills, if it starts with an S, it starts at the Senate. And if it starts with the A, it started in the Assembly. So wherever it started, it has to go through that process. And then in the second phase, it'll move to the other side. So since Senate Bill 567 started in the Senate, it has to go through all of its journey in the Senate, and then it'll be shifted over to the Assembly and go through the same process. Once it's approved there, it'll go to the governor. And then the governor has a certain time frame to sign the bill. If he doesn't sign it, it automatically is like a veto because he didn't sign the bill into law. So we still have like, sometimes it seems like, oh, like it passed through the Senate, like it's gonna happen. Like there's still all these walls that the bill could probably go through and probably kill the bill. So we're really hoping to get a lot of leaders, constituents, folks that are really impacted. I just really care about these bills, right? Really living into this vision to pass these bills all the way to the governor's desk. And this next slide, I'll be talking about. So this is what we aspire to see, right? Like these news outlets talking about breaking news. SB 567 signed into law. California amending the Constitution, housing is a human right, and California passing a historic social housing bill. And then with SB 225, Fresno potentially receiving $100 million from that bill specifically. So this is, I actually like this slide because we're manifesting. Yes, like we're envisioning, we're seeing it, and we're hoping to manifest it, right? We're seeing it, so it's going to be possible. That's why I really like this slide. And then in this next slide, I'll be talking about the Senate Judiciary Committee. So this is where SB 567 is currently at. So we talked about our PICO California federations. So each person has, if I'll drop in the chat box right now, actually, we all have a Senate representative and an Assembly representative. So I'll drop in the chat this link where you can actually figure out who your representatives are. And so, so yeah, for Faith in the Valley, our senator, that's a key person to make Senate Bill 567 pass, is Ana Caballero. And so, like I mentioned in the first phase, we're having meetings with our elected officials. So we had a meeting with Ana Caballero, Senator Ana Caballero's staff. We met with her legislative director, and we met with like 2 district representatives to talk about the importance of all these bills, but also really highlighting the importance of SB 567. We're hoping to have another meeting with her staff, or even better with the senator herself. We've invited her to our April 20th action, and we're really hoping to have her out there during our lunch with legislators portion of the meeting of our action day. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of really amazing things to really let our legislators know that these bills are really important to the people of the Central Valley. So SB 567, what's the current status of the votes? We know we have supporters. So if you recall from the previous slides that Janine shared, SB 567 is sponsored by Senator Durazo. And so we already know we have her support. We have the support of other senators as well, such as Senator Wiener, Laird, Allen, and Stern. We have a current concern with Senator Stern because he's currently on parental leave. And we just heard that the Judiciary Committee will convene for a vote on the 25th of April. And we're hoping that Senator Stern is off paternity leave, and so he could actually participate in the vote. We have some opponents. We have Senators Wilk and Nilo. So we do have some opponents to these bills, specifically SB 567, and we have some swing voters. So these folks in the middle could really make or break this bill at its current phase. And as we can see, we have Senator Caballero in the middle. So this is why we're really pushing to meet with the senator, to have a conversation with her and let her know that SB 567 is an important bill for the people of the Central Valley. We also have Senator Umberg, the chair of this committee, and he's also someone that potentially could really kill the bill within this committee. But really hoping that through our collective meetings as a statewide organization and as constituents, like making calls, sending emails, that we could really make this bill go through this process of the Judiciary Committee. So as I mentioned earlier, sometimes it could be a little difficult to like know who your representative is. So I dropped in the chat box, like it's the Cal Matters website, and you just put your address and it lets you know who your representative is for the Senate and the Assembly side. So I really like to make this really simple for folks to like know who the representatives are. Sometimes you just know them by their name, but I think it's really important to know them by their face, so that if you ever bump into them, you never know, they're everywhere sometimes, and you could talk to them and let them know what's important to you. So for the Central Valley, Fresno and like Merced, I know we have folks from Fresno and Merced. So Senator Caballero actually represents folks from Fresno County and Merced County, and even a little portions of the Central Coast, specifically Salinas. So she's the district representative of District 14, which includes Fresno, Madera, and Merced, and the Central Coast. She's been in office since 2006 in the Assembly up to 2010, and then 2016 to 2018. The reasoning as to why she's now in the Senate is because she termed out of the Assembly side and had to continue her political career, had to jump over to the Senate side. A background of Senator Caballero is that she used to be a mayor of Salinas. She attended UCLA and UC San Diego. On the right-hand side, you'll see like the map of her district, and then a little bio about her. They were born in Arizona, identify as Latina, currently live in Merced, and their gender and their birth date. On the bottom right-hand side, you'll see corporate money. Sometimes elected officials usually get money from different sponsors or like funders. And so I really like to showcase like where the money comes from. If you follow the money, you usually understand as to why your elected official votes the way they do. And sometimes they listen to a lot of the folks that provide the money. So Caballero gets a big portion of money from real estate, oil and gas, cops, and health insurance. So in one of the slides that Janine shared, we talked about a few of these big actors, such as real estate and oil and gas. So we know that sometimes, and very often, these corporations are funding money to kill a lot of important bills for folks in the Central Valley and all of California, because they benefit from these bills not passing, and they benefit from us, right? So it's really important to know sometimes where the money is coming from. And then in this next slide, I'll talk about Assembly Member Dr. Joaquin Arambula. He's an Assembly Member for District 31 in Fresno. And then again, I'm sharing the map. If you live within the blue areas, that he represents you. So Dr. Joaquin Arambula has been in office since 2016, and he's just been in the Assembly. A little bit of background from him. He's an emergency room doctor, or used to be an emergency room doctor in the area of Selma. So he went to Bowdoin University, and then he went to the University of Minnesota, and then again to medical school at the University of Minnesota. They were born in Delano, identify as Latino, and currently reside in Fresno. Again, looking at the money, like Caballero, receives a lot of money from real estate and oil and gas, cops and health insurance. One thing about Dr. Joaquin Arambula is that, given his background, he really supports bills that align with like health and wellness and like living a healthy lifestyle. So not today, but someone reminded me today about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so in this like chart, it shows the bottom, like your basic needs to like to give up to the point of like a really successful life, according to Maslow. And so one of those basic needs for you to like have like good social development and just like be healthy is housing. And so Dr. Joaquin Arambula sometimes really lives into like Maslow's laws of hierarchy and social determinants. Yeah, someone just added it in the chat. Health is a social determinant of health. I'm trying to read it. Of health. People thrive when housing needs are met. So yeah, that's a little bit about Dr. Joaquin Arambula. And then this next person is someone that's newly elected in the assembly. This is Assembly Member Esmeralda Soria. They represent District 27, which encompasses Fresno, Madera, and Merced. They've been in office since 2022. And background, they were a council member within the city of Fresno, and they were an adjunct professor at Fresno City. They were born in Tulare and currently reside in Fresno. So they attended UC Berkeley and then UC Davis School of Law. And then I added the Fresno City because they were a professor there. Assembly member Soria was also while at the city of Fresno, was a big champion on housing and a lot of like needs of like really aligned with like her community and really tried to listen to her constituents and championed a lot of important like city policies. And so we're really hoping that now that they are currently at the assembly, they continue to listen to the people of the Central Valley and push for progressive and like radically important bills for the people of the Central Valley. This next slide, I'll be talking about like the timeline. So going over phase one once again. So what we have done. So in March, we had local and state research actions. We did housing surveys, something that we've been doing like throughout many years, but we did it collectively as a statewide network. We had the March 4th Leadership Assembly. In April, we've been having tenant protection and city and county resolutions. In April, our legislative officials were in recess, and so they were actually in their districts. And when they're in their districts, that means that they're back home within their like the cities that they represent, usually like their main office. And sometimes like when they are in their districts, you could actually go to the office and request a meeting. Sometimes they'll just like take you in because they're there. I would never want you to feel like that you can never have a meeting with your representative. They're there to represent you. So you always have that option to request a meeting, whether it's in person, via Zoom, and sometimes you might not meet with them. You'll meet with a staff member that really will try to understand like your perspective and let the legislator know your perspective and what you want them to know. And so April 10th through the 28th, there's Senate committee hearings. So I mentioned that SB 567 will be going through the committee hearings on the 25th of this month. And again, in April, we'll be having the Pico, California, April 20th action. In May, we'll be having a series of phone banking through the spring and summer. And so an important date to remember, our bill, SB 567, must pass out of the Senate to move forward to the Assembly side by June 2nd. By May 19th, the budget revision will happen. And then in May, again, we'll have a statewide leadership assembly. And then in June, phase 2 of the campaign begins in the next house of the legislature, which would be the Assembly House. I'll be passing it over to Blanca now to talk a little bit more about April 20th and our action that's coming up.